Welcome, crypto fam, to number one daily Bitcoin pod. In today's show, I'll be sharing the latest technical analysis as well as big breaking news. Tesla announced owning over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. The primary shareholders of Tesla are Elon. We also have Vanguard and BlackRock as the whales continue accumulating at unprecedented numbers, stacking the biddy. Also, breaking news, Metaplanet to raise $4 billion in yen to buy more Bitcoin. That's the Japanese version of MicroStrategy. Also, Prince Philip of Serbia says nation states are secretly adopting strategic Bitcoin reserves. Also, Michael Saylor just purchased a fresh 7,633 of the biddy for $742 million days after the firm just rebranded from MicroStrategy last week. Strategy B has already acquired 32,340 Bitcoin thus far this year, and we're barely even in February. Also be discussing El Salvador continues buying Bitcoin despite the IMF pressure. That's right. As well as Bitcoin's role as a reserve asset gains traction in U.S. as states adopt. I think we're now up to 29 United States who are adopting Bitcoin. And speaking of that, also Bitcoin OG sees 700,000 price, calling it the Valhalla cycle, and we're in it. Also breaking news, Florida bill proposes investing up to 10% of the state funds into Bitcoin, which could mean a purchase of $1.5 billion. And more breaking news just in before I went live, North Carolina House Speaker Destin Hall introduces legislation to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. All this plus so much more in today's show. If you're new to the channel, very important to smash the likes. Go ahead, subscribe, then hit that bell icon, turn on all notifications. That way you get notified each and every day when I go live. And also, today is pod episode 1901, believe it or not. And yeah, let's kick it off with our market watch. I'm your host, JV, as you know. Today is February 10th. Tomorrow's my birthday. I will be streaming tomorrow, by the way, but it's going to be an early stream because I got to pick up my daughter from school, and it's also her birthday tomorrow. So it's a double celebration, which I'm looking forward to. So we will be doing an early stream, and then I'll be spending the birthday with my little one. But nonetheless, just make note of that, hence the importance of having notifications turned on. Other big news, Metaplanet to raise 4 billion yen to buy more Bitcoin. And also, Prince Philip of Serbia says nation states are secretly adopting strategic Bitcoin reserves. And also, oh, we'll get to the Michael Saylor story actually in just a little bit. Don't mind the nip. He barks when people come over. So, but anyways, let me pull up some of the live charts for you guys. You should be able to see here in a second. Let's see. B there. Let me know if you guys can see the live charts on the screen. You should be able to. This is the 1 hour. I'll do a little quick analysis live for you. We do have a red target on the screen sitting at 104.2. And if we zoom out from the 1 hour, we'll take a look at the 4 hour. And the 4 hour chart has a couple of targets as well. We do have a target at 130, and we also have a target at 104. So very bullish on the 4 hour chart, which we love to see. 130 in play. Send it. And zooming out for the daily. The daily chart shows a rising wedge formation. Zooming out from the daily, we'll take a look at the weekly chart. Still have that cup and handle target, which has been there forever, sitting at 124,000. And zooming out from the weekly, we'll take a look at the monthly. And the monthly chart, obviously February has been bearish thus far, but we're still young. I mean, we got another 18 days left to go. Obviously, November, you see the mega Godzilla candle. That was the biggest one we've had since the inception of the Genesis block. But there you have it, crypto fam. So here's the latest. Michael Saylor's Strategy B, which is the new rebranding from MicroStrategy, purchased a fresh 7,633 Bitcoin for $742 million days after the firm rebranded. Strategy has already acquired 32,340 Bitcoin thus far this year in 2025. Here's the official announcement from Saylor. MicroStrategy has acquired 7,633 Bitcoin for $742 million at 97,255 per coin and has achieved a Bitcoin yield of 4.1% year to date this year. As of February 9th, Strategy holds 478,740 Bitcoin acquired for $31.1 billion at an average price of $65,000. And he's already said he's going to be buying the top forever, Laura. So you already know. But yeah, let's get a little deeper into this. Strategy, yep, I just shared that. The fresh Bitcoin purchase came the day after the company of the official rebranding. Since making its first Bitcoin purchase all the way back in August of 2020, they were the first publicly traded company to do so. Strategy has now accumulated a total of 478,000 BTC, which it has acquired at an average price of 65,000 per bitty. And according to the filing, Strategy's yield, which is a key performance indicator representing the percentage change of the ratio between its Bitcoin holdings and assumed diluted shares, amounted to 4% in the time period from Jan 1st to February 9th. And on Feb 5th, Strategy reported that its Bitcoin yield for 2024 amounted to 74%, which is significantly higher than expected this year. And after recording a $670 million net loss for the fourth quarter of 2024, the company lowered its Bitcoin yield target to just 15% for this year. Additionally, Strategy's Bitcoin's gain came from the period of January 1st to February 9th, was around 1.8 billion, nearly 18% from the 10 billion of the newly targeted gains in 2025. And here you can see in the chart, Strategy Bitcoin KPI targets reflects the incremental value generated through the Strategy treasury operations. Annual Bitcoin yield targeted revised to minimum of 15% for the new year, and the annual Bitcoin gain target is 10 billion for 2025. They're looking to gain another 10 billion in fiat value. And in 2024, Strategy said it achieved a gain of 140,538 BTC, which is around 13.1 billion. Now, with the latest purchase, Strategy has significantly increased its Bitcoin stash acquired thus far this year. As of February 9th, Strategy's year-to-date purchase amounted to 32,340 bitty, which is 7% of the total Bitcoin holdings of its, about 7% of its total Bitcoin holdings. Similarly to Strategy's previous Bitcoin purchases, the latest buy was made using proceeds from the issuance of sales of shares on the convertible notes sales agreements. And we all know his 21-21 plan, Strategy targeting to issue and sell shares of Class A common stock to raise up to $21 billion in equity and $21 billion in fixed income securities over the next 3 years in order to accumulate more of the bitty. Founded by Saylor in 1989, Strategy positions itself as the world's first and largest Bitcoin treasury company, and I believe his goal is to turn it into a Bitcoin bank. I've heard him announce that in one of his interviews. Its rebranding came amid the U.S. lawmaker pushing the adoption of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. According to Jan 3 CEO Samson Mow, MicroStrategy's new name aligns well with the company's Bitcoin corporate treasury strategy. There is nothing micro about what MicroStrategy is doing. So the rebrand to Strategy is very fitting, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's a good rebrand. What are your thoughts, family, regarding Michael Saylor continuing to buy all the Bitcoin available? And how many Bitcoin do you think he'll acquire before the end of this year, considering the pace he is at? Let me know. Now let's dive into the next story of the day. Headline reads, El Salvador continues buying the bitty despite the IMF pressure. F the IMF. The government of the El Salvador has continued to buy the Bitcoin despite the deal reached by the IMF back in December. According to the National Bitcoin Office, in the last 7 days, Bukele's administration acquired 18 BTC, with its total reserve reaching 6 Bitcoin, which is nearly 584,000. Its total reserve. Stacked again, the organization posted on X reinforcing the commitment to keep adding Bitcoin to the country's stockpile. Now, my understanding is it's 6,000, so let me correct that. Obviously, they don't just have 6 Bitcoin. They make purchases of 11 or 12 Bitcoin at a time recently. So I think they mean 6,073 BTC. I don't know why people started using decimals as commas. I don't get that, but it's over 6,000. Nonetheless, many are worried about the future of these purchases as the Salvadoran Congress recently removed the Bitcoin legal tender status to comply with the requirements for receiving the 1.4 billion credit line from the IMF, which demanded scaling back its Bitcoin role in El Salvador's economy. And that's where the FUD comes in, and the IMF loves generating FUD. My understanding is Bukele took this loan so he can purchase more Bitcoin and further his Bitcoin adoption versus scaling it back. So the scaling back is FUD being reported from the IMF. They're not scaling back whatsoever from my understanding. So just FYI. And I believe Bukele is just going to continue to play 5D chess, purchase the Bitcoin, because that's the overall goal, is to make his country and his people as wealthy and free as possible, and I believe he's doing a fantastic job. I personally got to spend some time in Bitcoin country, and it was a blast. It was a great time. I got to experience firsthand what it's like actually paying for your food using the Bitcoin Lightning Network, zapping sats and all that fun stuff. And yeah, I think adoption will continue. Obviously, not everyone there has to accept Bitcoin. Some vendors do, some vendors don't. So you have the option. You can choose a vendor. For example, if you go out for pupusas and there's 100 pupusa restaurants, which there's plenty of them. Some of the vendors will say, we accept Bitcoin. You may see a sign, Bitcoin accepted. Other vendors, no, we don't accept it. But no one was ever forced to, and no one was ever forced to only use Bitcoin. As far as currencies are concerned, you have the US dollar, and you have Bitcoin. Both are currencies in El Salvador. And then you have things such as Tether, stablecoin, USDT, which is considered a registered security. Then all the shitcoins are considered unregistered securities, and it's actually illegal to promote them in El Salvador. Hence, they're focused on Bitcoin, unlike the United States and other countries around the world, which fully embracing all types of crypto, meme coins, etc. I mean, here in the United States, our own POTUS launched his own meme coin. Who would have thunketh? And how many NFT collections is Trump up to? His own wife has her own, meme coin. So the shitcoinery is full on here in the United States. El Salvador is completely different. Their only focus is Bitcoin, right? Because they understand Bitcoin financially will benefit everyone, and no one's going to get scammed or rug pulled and things of that nature. It's the most secure network, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but El Salvador is a very special place. I have a lot of love and respect for Bukele and the El Salvadoran people, and my boy Sergio, who I get these caps from at bitcoincaps.net. But if you don't know, now you know. We're going to be discussing Bitcoin's role as a reserve asset gains traction in the United States as the state's adoption continues. And it's crazy. Every day, more states proposing a Bitcoin bill. So it's just a sign of the times. The growing number of the Bitcoin reserve protocols in the United States has fueled speculation about a potential global accumulation race. Max actually coined the global hash wars, and that's precisely what we're witnessing right now, as early adopters could benefit from the crypto's monetary incentives. And also, I wanted to shout out Robbie P. We did play one of my favorite songs, Bitcoin Slang, at the party, and I saw you reposted that, which was awesome. And of course, Max is quoted at the end of the song. So we had Max at the party through Robbie's music. So shout out Robbie P if you're watching, brother. So Kentucky became the 16th U.S. state to introduce legislation aimed at establishing a Bitcoin reserve that would allocate up to 10% excess state reserves into digital assets. Bitcoin is on track to becoming a mainstream reserve asset thanks to growing institutional and national level adoption. If the Kentucky bill is approved, it may trigger a global race. No, the global race has already started, family. They're accumulating. Countries are accumulating low-key, as the Prince of Serbia has shared with you earlier. Let me find that tweet. A little proof of work for you here. Prince Philip of Serbia says, nation states are secretly adopting strategic Bitcoin reserves. I couldn't agree more. And trust me, they will announce it eventually, but they rather continue to accumulate at these prices versus paying double, triple, quadruple of what you see. You know what I mean? Quoting them here, the tipping point will be when one state formally adopts Bitcoin in reserves. After that, it's game on, most likely. Once a few actually commit, the others will feel the pressure and follow. This is the game theory we've been preaching each and every day. We expect to see many portfolios reposition their diverse allocation strategy to include Bitcoin before the big players eat up all of the supply. Some of the world's largest asset management companies have already accumulated over 5.9% of the current Bitcoin supply through the Bitcoin ETFs, which hold a cumulative 113 billion worth of Bitcoin, according to Dune Analytics. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF accounts for 48.7%, 55 billion of the cumulative holdings of all the U.S. Bitcoin ETFs. Continued Bitcoin ETF inflows may push Bitcoin to a new all-time high. In 2024, U.S. Bitcoin ETFs accounted for about 75% of new investment into Bitcoin when it recaptured the 50,000 mark on February 15th. I actually remember the day. It was actually on the 12th. Just FYI, I don't know why they say the 15th, but I remember it because my birthday is on February 11th, so I can't forget. And on the 11th, I just wanted Satoshi to bless me with a $50,000 Bitcoin price, and it happened the following morning. And I remember talking about it on the pod. That's when we hit 50,000, like deja vu, because it's virtually a year from today. A year and 2 days away from February 12th when we did that. But let's see what Satoshi has in store for JV's birthday this year. But anyways, despite increasingly more Bitcoin reserve bills being issued, regulatory challenges remain a hurdle, according to James Woe, the founder of DFG, quoting him here. The idea of the accumulation race is fascinating, but this bill is merely a proposal and has not yet been passed. While other states may follow suit, strict fiscal policies and concerns over Bitcoin's volatility can pose challenges for legislators and the public. However, if enough states successfully pass similar bills, it could lay the groundwork for a broader conversation about the federal Bitcoin reserve in the future. And as you can see, here's just a glimpse of some of the states proposing Bitcoin bills. And it's a lot more now. I heard it's now 28. And then I saw the news with another state, North Carolina. So it may be close to 30 by now. So you know what I mean? But Kentucky did become the 16th state in the U.S. to introduce legislation behind Arizona, Alabama, Florida, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Hampshire, North Dakota, South Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, Utah, Kansas, and Wyoming. And if you don't know, now you know. Crypto broskies. Headline here reads, Bitcoin OG sees 700,000 bitty price and a 16,000 Ethereum in this Valhalla cycle. So let's break down this prediction, and then we'll get into our breaking news with Florida adopting Bitcoin. So yeah, Bitcoin is due to hit a giant 700,000 this cycle thanks to a massive liquidity injection. This is according to Bill Barhydt, founder and CEO of Abra. He says he expects the cyclical Valhalla to start in Q1. So this is the theory of the extended, I guess theoretically we're still in Q1, so I take that back. I was going to say maybe next year he's thinking extended cycle, but no, we're in Q1, so he thinks it's going to happen now. Bitcoin at 350,000 is now the base case for Abra's Bill Barhydt, the longtime crypto industry executive. In his latest round of price predictions, he confirmed not only Bitcoin hitting a cycle peak of 700,000. And what's your thoughts on that? I like that. I think that's right in alignment with Plan B's target between $250,000 and $1 million this year. That's in alignment with my target. You know, my bear scenario along with facts is 222. My base case is 420 and my bull scenario is 1.1. So that's right on the money. But equally lofty targets for Ether, Solana, and more. Well, a rising tide rises all ships. If Bitcoin achieves the bull scenario, I can only imagine, alts will come along for the ride. The reason he argues boils down to the new U.S. government admin under President Trump. My model is simple. This administration wants interest rates much lower, then they'll do whatever they have to achieve that. They also need to refinance over $7 trillion in debt. Tax cuts are coming. All of this equates to a massive liquidity injection, whether via QE or some other means. He also referred to a former liquidity boost called quantitative easing, which is QE, effectively increasing the money supply with crypto and risk assets as the two key beneficiaries. Cyclical Valhalla is coming, he shared, with a post giving Q1 as the likely deadline for such liquidity injections to begin. So that gives us until the end of March. The base case calls for ETH USD to hit 8,000, which is practically double the current all-time high, while Solana to reach 900. High end of the range is 2x these values, he shared. Bitcoin and the alts are no strangers to the high sky price predictions this year, while consolidation kicks in around the start of the Trump presidency. Various major global firms have issued targets of 200,000 or more, with the numbers only increasing towards the next decade. However, we have BitMEX founder Arthur Hayes, who this week warned that the new administration is not a silver budget for the price growth. Quoting him here, Arthur Hayes just blazed. As the global community quickly realizes that politics in America didn't change that dramatically, just because Trump got elected, the price of cryptos will fall to levels seen in the fourth quarter of 2024. My call for a recess of 70,000 to 75,000 still stands. I disagree. I think the bottom is in, but you guys let me know your thoughts. Now for our feature story of the day, breaking news. Florida bill proposes investing up to 10% of the state funds into the preload bitty. Going up. That's right. And as shared here, North Carolina, this just came in before I went live. House Speaker Destin Hall introduces legislation to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So it's like every single day there's more states announcing bills and proposals to adopt Bitcoin some way, somehow. But for now, let's dive deeper into what's going on in Florida. Florida State Senator Joe, I don't know if it's Gruters or Grutters, but whatever, I'm going to say Grutters, filed a bill on Friday that would allow the state chief financial officer to invest public funds into Bitcoin. The legislation, known as SB 550, seeks to incorporate the crypto into Florida's financial strategy as a hedge against inflation. Quoting the bill, the chief financial officer may include Bitcoin and other digital assets to serve as stores of value and provide a hedge against inflation, thereby protecting the purchasing power of the state funds. So by introducing Bitcoin into the state investment portfolio, supporters argue that Florida could better safeguard its financial reserves from the economic volatility. That's right, because they must obviously get it. Bitcoin's volatility should be embraced. Volatility equals life force. And Bitcoin's volatility is great because the overall trajectory is it's going up forever, Laura. Bitcoin's theoretically been in a 16-year bull run since the inception of the Genesis block. We do have cycles where there's dips and there's winters, but the overall trajectory is bullish. The bill outlines 3 ways the state can hold Bitcoin. They could do so directly through a secure custody solution, such as like Coinbase with a qualified custodian. I think it's Coinbase Prime that does the custody, or as an ETF approved by the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission. And additionally, it allows the CFO to loan Bitcoin holdings under certain conditions to generate additional returns, provided the loans do not expose the state to increase financial risks. SB 550 establishes clear guidelines for these investments, placing a cap on how much of the state funds can be allocated into Bitcoin. Here's what the bill specifies. The amount of public funds that the chief financial officer may invest in Bitcoin may not exceed 10% of the total funds in any account. So my understanding with the current funds available there, 10% would mean up to $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin for the state of Florida. If enacted, the legislation would allow Florida to accept taxes and fees in Bitcoin, which all states should be doing. It's stupid not to, with payments converted to US dollars and deposited into the General Revenue Fund, which the government uses for ongoing expenses. SB 550 amends multiple sections of the Florida law to align with this policy, including investment rules for public and pension funds. So there you have it. Crypto fam, what are your thoughts on Florida and the rest of the states? And I saw something earlier. There's now like 28 or 29 states somehow, some way trying to adopt Bitcoin, whether it's through a strategic reserve bill or for the treasury or for the pension funds or the sovereign wealth funds. So sign of the times, adoption is coming. And the $1 million question becomes, when will Trump be introduced to the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill and have the ability to sign it into action? My understanding, it first has to get approved by like the Senate and some other forces, and then it would be presented for him to put his John Hancock on. But long story short, do you think this year Trump will sign a strategic reserve bill for the United States of America? Do you think it happens this year in 2025? Or do you think it won't happen? And I personally am feeling that the states are going to be adopting it first before on a federal level. But I want to know your thoughts. I just think they move slower on a national level, and there's less politics involved at a state level. And the way things are moving with the game theory, the global hash wars, leads me to believe this. But I want to know your thoughts, family. Welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream.